It's a remarkable survivor for well over a century.
After decades of disasters, Tulip Street Church is standing tall.
Did you see the old sign up there?
Jim Hubler is the retired senior curator at the Tennessee State Museum and State Capitol. He tells me this building's story starts back in 1891, built on Russell Street in East Nashville.
It's Richardsonian Romanesque, which means that it's the architecture before Gothic, so it has rounded arches, and this one has some beautiful terracotta that's glazed clay.
35 years later, its stunning features were faced with one of Nashville's most devastating tragedies, the Great East Nashville Fire of 1916. It's said to have been started by a child playing with a yarn ball that caught fire by the Cumberland River.
Bam! With all of the wind, a huge fire started. It swept through this area. It burned 650 buildings. 3,000 people were homeless.
But miraculously, the church survived, then made it through another disaster some 8 decades later.
And in 1998, when the tornado came through here, it decimated the building. It blew out the entire east wall of the building, and the stained glass was lying in the street. The sanctuary was wide open.
Ultimately, it wasn't a force of nature, but rather low attendance that closed its doors in 2017. The Methodist Church decided the congregation was too small and moved in another, one that just happened to have been started at this very same church and lost their building in another disaster.
But then in 2020, we had another tornado, and a church that was formed here, East End Methodist, lost their building. So they are now coming back to their mother church, and they will be worshiping in Tulip Street once again.
A homecoming for East End United Methodist Church, now renovating the building, what Hubler says is a $4.5 million project.
This entire fence is original.
Right. You can see there's a staircase in this tower as the windows are going up. That's as the stair levels go up, so you could go up into the top of that tower.
Aiming to preserve elements of its historic character, like an organ in its sanctuary.
Jardine organs are late 19th century organs, and it's remarkable that one of those still survives and that they've maintained it all of these years, and it's still playable.
Although the congregation declined an interview, East End did give us some insight into their plans. Reverend Brandon Baxter confirming their purchase of the church and calling it their best pathway forward.
You can see the cherubs up there in the tower and the garlands. Yeah, with the sun on it.
Hubler says survivors like Tulip Street show us who we are, a sentiment best portrayed in his favorite quote from Grapes and Wrath.
She says, how are you going to know where you come from unless you remember where that was? And that's what historic structures tell us. They tell us where we came from, they show us some of our history, and they help us to remember who we are.